Welcome back to Unfiltered Unspoken podcast. Sorry. What's up, everyone? What's up, everyone, and welcome
Hey.
to Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast, the space where real conversations happen, stories are shared without filters, and the things we don't always say out loud finally get spoken. We're so glad you're here with us, Kaitlyn. This podcast was created with one person in my purpose in mind, and that's to experience real life experience and genuine connections that might help someone else seen, understood, or inspired. We believe there's power in testimony, power in honesty, power in the community. Now, just to be clear, it's not we're not therapists, we're not psychologists, we're simply sharing life lessons, growth, and perspective. And some things resonates with you and it helps you share. That's what this space is about. So before we dive in, we'd love for you to introduce yourself to our listeners and tell us a little bit about your journey. And after that, City Sid is going to kick off the first question.
Hi, my name is Kaitlyn Wilkins. I'm 25 years old. I live in South Carolina and I'm a mother of two boys. Um, I recently went through a complicated pregnancy where my baby he was diagnosed with spina bifida, and I chose to have surgery, fetal surgery, to have his back fixed. And yeah, the rest is history.
Well, thank you again for being here with us. Um, we're doing this kind of different today, so we're gonna just start off just kind of the beginning of this pregnancy. Um, just from speaking with you on the back end, you did say that there was no issues on with your first pregnancy. Is that correct?
That's correct. The only complication I had during my pregnancy was when it was time to give birth, and I had to have an emergency C-section. But other than that, I had no complications during my 10 months of being pregnant with my first child.
It with the second pregnancy, at what point is it that they let you know that they seen this? I don't know if you want to call it a condition disorder, but at what point was this noticeable in your pregnancy?
So I went to my regular checkup, and I want to say it was at between 18 or 19 weeks. And I done blood testing to make sure my baby didn't have Down syndrome or any disability that they can detect ahead of time. And so my I forgot what it is called, but it's called AFP. It's a protein that they look at. It came back positive. So so my doctor told me it could be a false positive or it could be, positive. So that's what, you know, raised alerts. And I had to go to maternal fetal to get a fuller, like a full in-depth ultrasound examination of the baby.
Okay. And then after that, Caitlin,
Mhm.
after you went back, did that create a scare? Did they explain to you about the condition? And can you tell us a little bit? Is spina bifida
Spina bifida, spina
spina bifida?
bifida. Yes.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about the condition and what causes it?
Okay, so let me pull it up. So I'm not giving you any wrong answer. So spina bifida, which in this case is three different spina bifidas, but in this case, my baby, he had myelomeningocele, and it is the most severe form of bifida where the spinal canal fails to close during development, and this happens within the first 4 weeks of being pregnant. It causes the spinal cord and nerves to to protrude through an opening in the back, usually forming a sac. And so when I went to maternal fetal to do a full in-depth ultrasound, you could actually see a little sac that was forming on the back of his back, on his spine.
And how did you, I guess, make the decision that you wanted to move forward with the fetal surgery, versus going ahead and having the baby as is? Was there kind of was that a difficult decision for you, or how did you kind of weigh your options?
Yes, that was a very difficult decision for me because at first I was like, I don't want to go through this. And I was just, gonna wait to have the surgery. But then they were explaining the more the severity of the condition. And if I would have waited, there could be a possibility of the nerves becoming more damaged. So from the 20 weeks, from 20 weeks when I found out that I had it, um, I want to say I made a decision before I was 24 weeks because I had to have the surgery before I was 26 weeks. And I'm not gonna lie, I cried almost every day. I was just so sad. I was so depressed because I was asking God, like, why me? Why why do I have to go through this? And at the time, I have homegirls and friends, they're pregnant and they're having healthy pregnancies, and it was just like, why me? So, of course, I always talk to my grandma, my mom, asking them what I should do. But in the end, you know, I prayed to God and, of course, I talked to his dad, my boyfriend, and, you know, we finally came to the decision to have the surgery, but we also had to go to Chapel Hill in North Carolina, UNC, and we had to we had to do a lot of testing. We had to do MRIs, we had to do a lot of consultations with different doctors. I had to talk to an anesthesiologist, the doctor that was going to be performing on me, the doctor that was going to be performing on the baby, and they had to tell us the pros and the cons of the pregnancies. I also, done a lot of research. I looked on TikTok to see if any mothers like to see what this really is because I've never heard of it. I never knew that you could have surgery or while you're pregnant. So all of this was new to me. So I done my research on TikTok and I seen mothers, like they're actually doing this. It's nowhere near local around here. It's like in Philadelphia and Texas and stuff like that. But I done my research and basically, um, I'm sorry, drawing a blank, but yeah, it just led me to go ahead and have the surgery because I didn't want my son to grow up having a lot of challenges, which he will have, which he is now, but he's thriving. Um, but I just didn't want it to be more severe than what it is.
And I was going to ask, um, that was going to be my next question. If you didn't have the surgery, what would have been the complications with the child or even with you?
So there wouldn't have been any complications with me if I didn't have the surgery. I would have just carried him, you know, the full full term. excuse me, and he would have to have the surgery after he was born, and he probably would have had to stay in the NICU at least a month because it's a spinal surgery. And what was that? What was the last question again? I'm sorry.
Sorry. And what complications would have had if you didn't do the surgery before the 26 weeks?
That we don't know because with spina bifida, no one's case is the same. So it was kind of like I was taking a risk either way if I had the surgery or if I didn't.
So what was the preparation like for the surgery? What kind of surgery was it? Like, were you put under or just kind of like local anesthetic? What was the recovery for that like? If, there was any, just tell us a little bit about your experience of the surgery itself.
So I had to admit myself that Monday of last year. It was January the 6th. It was on a Monday. I had to admit myself into Chapel Hill. My mom, my uncle, my grandma, and my little cousin, they all came with me the day before, and they were there the day of my surgery. But I had to admit myself the day before, and then the day of, I had to have a spinal tap. So it was kind of like I was having a C-section because that's what I had. I had a C-section. They put me under local anesthesia, sorry. So I had to be put to sleep, and also it put the baby to sleep too. So he wouldn't be moving around while they were performing surgery on his back. So not only was I um asleep, he was too.
So, how long did the how long did the surgery take?
So the surgery, I want to say it took like 3 or 4 hours because, like I said, it was like having a C-section. So I had two separate surgeons in the room, a surgeon for me and a surgeon for the baby. So the first surgeon, he done like a regular C-section and he took my uterus out like it was whole. He took my uterus out. And then a neurosurgeon, he went in and cut a small tiny hole in the uterus and exposed the back, just like a tiny spot where the back was. He went in with his tools and he closed his back. He put the spinal cords back in and closed his skin back up over the spine and stitched everything back up. And then that's when my surgeon went back in and stitched me back up.
And with the recovery, you said, you just pretty much you was, recovery of like a C-section. Was there
No,
any oh, it
no.
wasn't. Okay, so what was
Let me.
recovery like for you?
Is it okay if we cuss over here?
Yes.
Okay. Because I'm gonna just be frankly honest.
Unfiltered
The
Unspoken.
recovery, the recovery was hell. It was hell. Um, it took me at least 2.5 months to fully recover. So after the surgery, so I went in on a Monday. I had the surgery on Tuesday, and I had to. Did they have me up and walking the next? I want to say they had me up and walking. I had to get up and walk the next day. So just imagine you being cut open while pregnant, having surgery done, and still having to get up the next day while being pregnant still and having like this, like, for one, they cut me up and down. up underneath my belly button. I didn't get cut across like my first C-section. I got cut up and down. So I would have these sharp pains on my right side, like muscle spasms, and it was like really hard to like bear. Like I was literally crying tears, stuck like wherever I was at. That's how bad it was. So they had me on a routine of taking oxycodone, a muscle spasm, Tylenol, and I had to take this medicine called Procardia um to not make my uterus contract, so I wouldn't have contractions. So I had to get up, I had to walk around, um, and I had to actually stay in the hospital until that Saturday. So I was in the hospital from Monday to that Saturday, and they would want me to get up and walk. I still had to maneuver like I just didn't have surgery. And on top of that, I have this big belly that I'm walking around with. Um, but the pain would come whenever I would get up and move and I would try to walk around or if I would try to shower myself or any and stuff like that. So when I got when that Saturday they released me, I had to stay at the Ronald McDonald House an extra 3 days. So I was still in Chapel Hill. I had to stay at the Ronald McDonald House an extra 3 days just in case, something happened. But I also had to stay because I had a follow-up appointment that next week as well. And when I had went to my follow-up appointment, I was still having muscle spasms and stuff. Like I was at my doctor's appointment, like just kind of like stuck wherever I was at. Like if I was standing and I had a muscle spasm, I'm stuck like where I'm at. And it would last for like 15 to 30 minutes, especially if I had just took an oxycodone probably like 4 hours before and I couldn't take it again. So it's kind of like I just had to go through it. I just had to get through it. And the doctor, he was like, my surgeon, he was like, well, I need you to stay a couple more days. And I was telling him, no, I don't want to stay here. Like I want to go heal at home. Mind you, I'm 3 hours away from home. I'm 3 hours away from my first baby. I want to go heal at home. I'd rather be hurting at home than, up here 3 hours away. But the recovery was hell, not gonna lie. And it lasted like that for like 2.5 months. I couldn't drive. I couldn't stand over the stove to cook myself something to eat. It was a lot of things that I couldn't do. I couldn't clean up. I couldn't I couldn't clean up. I couldn't cook. I couldn't drive. I couldn't do daily household things around the house. Like I was strictly on bed rest. Like I needed somebody to be here with me 24/7 or at least most of the day just because it was stuff that I couldn't do on my own.
I want to ask, did they give you staples or stitches?
It was dissolvable stitches.
And so how was it like bathing and just putting your clothes on and bandages and wounds? Like what was the process like of just cleaning the wounds and taking a shower and just your everyday things?
So at first, like when I could take the bandages and stuff off, I did get I did have an allergic reaction to the adhesive that they did have on my scar. So that had to heal. And then on top of that, my incision started opening back up, but it wasn't deep to where I needed like immediate medical attention. It was something that just happens because I got cut up and down instead of sideways. So showering, I want to say the first time I did shower after the surgery, my grandma, she did help me clean myself, like wash myself, like wash my back and stuff because I couldn't reach at the time. Shout out to my grandma, Alice Wilkins. She was there with me the whole week, like the whole entire time I was in Chapel Hill, she was there. Um, the dressing, like dressing up the wound and stuff, I would just put gauze over it and put like maternity panties over it. I try not to put too much on it just because I have sensitive skin, so I no tape or anything like that. Mm, let's see. Showering, it became easier once I started doing it. My boyfriend would tell me I would be cleaning my skin too hard. That's why, you know, I was having um my incision was opening back up, but um showering probably like the first month it was a little rough because I was still having those muscle spasms and sometimes I would like get stuck in the shower because I was having a muscle spasm. But other than that, cleaning myself, it wasn't that bad like I thought it would have been.
How hard was it on you, not really being able to do what you would normally do with your first child, or how did you see that that was affecting um, them, maybe not being able to pick them up or physically have too much contact with them, um, and what was your support system like, with your child as well? Did you feel as if um, he wasn't getting the same quality of care because you weren't able to do it yourself, or how was that situation for you?
Well, for one, I'm gonna say I had a great support system, like tens across the board. Like my family really showed out. So I really didn't have anything to worry about as far as when it came to my son. And actually, for one, he was too big. He was too big for me to pick him up anyways, because he's 6 at the time. Well, no, actually he's 5, but he's turning 6. Um, he was a big help. Like he loved helping me out. I remember one time it was just me and him at the house, and I started to have a muscle spasm, but I couldn't move. And he tried to help me get to my seat, but I was like, "Baby, you can't help me." you know. So he called his daddy, he called my little cousin, he called my best friends. Some both of my best friends came immediately. So I really wasn't too much worried about that because the support was always there. So, but he was a big help. He was a great help. Like he would get stuff, like I couldn't bend down. He would grab it for me. He was a big help. Like he loved helping his mama.
I love it. I want to ask, because I heard you mention that your wound was opening back up.
Hmm.
On the process, what happened when your wound started opening back up? Did you have to go back? Did you have to go back to the hospital, or was that something you were able to take care of at home?
Hello. I'm
We
sorry.
can hear you. We can hear
Could
you.
you repeat that question?
Yeah. I heard you mention that your wound was opening back up. What happened when your wound started opening back up? Did you have to go back to the hospital? What was that process like?
I can't hear you right now.
Hello.
Okay. Yeah, we can hear you. You need me to repeat the question? You're on mute. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
You can hear me, but I can't hear
Yeah.
you. Can't hear you. Mm-mm.
Can you hear me, Sid?
I can hear you. She just can't hear us.
Okay, hold on. Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead, Caitlin.
Okay, what was the question?
So your wound was opening up. Can you
Mm-hmm.
tell us, did you have to go back to the hospital? What happened when your wound started opening up? Did it get infected? What happened?
So, no, I didn't have to go back to the hospital, but I did get it checked out at maternal fetal, and they told me that it was normal because my skin moves side to side and it's not intended to move up and down. So that's what happened there. So it kind of opened back up, but it closed on its own.
And how long was it before you kind of fell back to normal, when you can kind of resume? Well, actually, I take that back because you were still pregnant, so I'm remembering this. So how, at what point, or how far along were you when you delivered?
So I was 37 weeks, so I did carry him full term. But when I started back feeling normal, I was around 31 weeks. That's when I could start back driving. But I didn't drive for like long distances. Like I never took myself to my doctor's appointments because my doctor's appointments were in Spartanburg and it's like 20 to 30 minutes away. So I never did take myself to my appointments. Either my best friend, my aunts, or my mom, or one of my family members, they would take me to my appointments.
And the I also want to ask. You said you had an allergic reaction to the adhesive.
Hmm.
Um, how did you know you had the allergic reaction? What were the symptoms of the allergic reaction? Just in case if someone's
Uh,
going through it. No.
they had put gauze over. They put gauze over my incision, and I noticed that it was green pus. It was green pus underneath my stomach, and that's how I knew I was allergic to adhesive. Where the adhesive was on my over my incision. It was. I don't know what it is about my skin, but whenever I have surgery and they put adhesive like close to the incision site, it gets irritated and it gets infected sometimes if it's done been on there too long. But it's only near like where I have surgery.
Now, when your son was born, did he have to spend any time like in the NICU? What were the initial challenges? Once he was out in the world.
So yes, he did have to spend 10 days in the NICU. He spent 10 days in the NICU. And the first night I didn't go and see him because I was, I had just had a C-section and I had to wait for them to take the catheter off of me, and I had to get myself up and walking. So I didn't get to go and see him that first night, but they did make sure I gave him a kiss and everything before they took him because they did have to take him back immediately just because of the surgery, I mean, the incision on his back, it was healed, but it wasn't fully dry, if that makes sense. Like it wasn't fully dry like skin.
And that was the incision from the first surgery that you had.
Hmm. If you
So
I can show you a picture of it.
yeah, let's see the picture. So when they do surgeries on the babies, the wounds don't fully heal while they're still in the womb. Was that the case?
I yes, I guess because he was still in, my fluid or whatever. So it was still kind of like wet skin.
Mm. So did your sac protect it from getting an infection?
Um, yes. Well, I'm not gonna say yes because that I don't know because it was by that point they had already fixed his no they already fixed his spinal cords and covered it back up with his own skin. So by them doing that, his spinal cords are already protected. I think what it was, it would have caused more damage if the spinal cords were still out in the open in the fluid. It would have caused more damage to his spinal cords.
Okay.
And what were your initial challenges when bringing him home? What kind of specialized care, if any, did you have to do, or what was different, about bringing this baby home and the care of this baby versus the first time around?
Let me tell you about the goodness of God. I didn't have to, like, there was nothing different than when I brought my first baby home. That's like, there was nothing but God. He was just a newborn baby.
No. And you said that he has some minor complications now. Is that from the how do you say it?
Spina bifida.
Spina yeah.
Bifida. Yes,
Huh?
ma'am.
Spina bifida. Okay. Does
So,
he have complications now from that?
so the only concern that, I have um is he doesn't feel his on the bottom of his right foot. Like I play with his feet all the time because his where his spinal cords were hanging out, they were a little bit above his tailbone. So in this case, it affects anything down. So it affects his bowels, it affects his bladder, it affects his legs, muscles, and stuff like that, his feet and stuff like that. But it also affects like their eyes, their head, hydrocephalus, and stuff like that. So let me rewind. So his brain was actually pulled back to the back of his neck from the spinal cords being out hanging outside of his back. So that was really what the surgery was for, was to reverse that. So his brain could float back up to his head and his brain be normal in its normal spot. Well, that did reverse it. It did reverse and his brain went back to his normal spot. And he does have hydrocephalus in his head, excess brain fluid, but it's not to where he needs a shunt in his head. So that's a good thing. But he does go and see a orthopedic or urologist, a neurologist. He goes to developmental ped. He um he has physical therapy, occupational therapy, and early intervention. And so far, everything has been great and good. I probably went ahead on myself. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's all right. Um, how personally, it obviously we are grateful for the fact that he came out on the other side, with the least amount of issues possible. But it does seem like just there's still a lot of doctors involved. Still a level of anxiety involved. Just based on what you have already been through with the situation. How is everything kind of sitting on you now? Is all of these doctors, as that affects like being able to work, financially, on a mental level, emotional level, how, is everything kind of sitting on your spirit?
Um, right now, mentally and emotionally, sometimes it does get overbearing. Like it's like a lot on my shoulders because, this is something new to me. This is something new, having to go see all these different specialists, having all of these appointments. It's a lot. And thankfully with my job, when I give birth, they give us, if you have a C-section, they give you 12 weeks, but they also give you 8 weeks of bonding time. So they give us, so like you can come to work and then you can use 8 weeks paid time off to spend time with your child. So what I did was after my 12 weeks were up from maternity leave, I went back to work and I worked a little bit and I still had time. I still had a lot of time to make his appointments and stuff. So um I split my 8 weeks in half. I use 4 here and then I'm going to use 4 before he turns 1 because you have until he turns 1 or your child turns 1 to use the 8 weeks. So I kind of use my time smart because right now I don't qualify for FMLA because I don't have enough working hours because I was out for almost half of the year due to complications with my surgery. So, well, with the pregnancy. So, I mean, I'm still able to work. I'm still full time. I just use my time a little bit more wisely than what I would have before.
Like patient. You're just like, it's normal. He came home, just normal. And with the therapy and the everything going on, do you have a support system behind that to help with the appointments and the therapy and everything else?
Yes, I do. But good thing, like I've been able to take him to all of his appointments, especially those big appointments that are at Shriners, or if it has something to do with his orthopedic, his neurosurgery, his urologist. Me and his father has been able to, go together to his appointments. But if it ever came down to I need somebody other than me or his father to take him, we do have that support if needed. But thank God I've been able to, take him myself because I want to be there. Mama wants to be there. Like, so
Now, was two kids always the plan? Did you want more kids? Did this affect your decision to have more kids or not?
oh yes. No, 2 kids was not the plan. I was a one and done mama. I did good. I did 6 years in between. I did good. But after this pregnancy, no, I don't want any more kids. No. Mm-mm, I don't.
Mhm. And I was gonna ask, just mentally, How are you doing mentally with everything going on? Does it get overwhelmed? I know you mentioned kind of before, but just through the whole process, how is it mentally and emotionally on you?
It is a mental overload. Like right now, I'm just coming and I'm just going. It's like I'm just always in mommy mode. But I thank I thank God for my family. They always they keep like whenever I ask them to, like they keep my kids for me. Like if I have to work or if I need to do something, if I need to do this or do that, like I always have that support. So
That's wonderful. Um, what was my question? I kind of lost it. Oh, are there any, I guess, or is there like an outlook of, any health challenges he may have, um, growing into his body? And I did even really, I don't know if we asked, but how old is he as well?
oh, he's 10 months. And
Mm.
before I get started, I just wanted to show you this is this was when he was first born, and this is the incision site and where it healed.
Right above his butt. Yeah.
Hmm. So could you repeat that question again? I'm sorry.
Yeah. I just said if there was
I'm sorry,
any,
I have a sensitive stomach, so that's the face. I'm like, woo.
I just said if there was like any outlook on, what any health challenges or anything he will have in the future as he continues to grow. Um, yeah, that was
So
really.
right now it's just really like there's like really no predictions, if that makes sense. It's kind of like he we're moving on his on my baby's time, because like I said earlier, like I mentioned before, like spina bifida, no case is the same at all. Like no case is the same. And I know with his physical therapy, I know she said that she could see him getting ready to crawl really soon, because he's catching on, he's moving pretty fast with the physical therapy. So I'm kind of glad, that, well, I am glad, not kind of, I am glad that I did get him into physical therapy and occupational therapy and EI. So
And how often does he have to do therapy? And will it cause a delay in him walking as well?
he does all of his therapies every week. Um, and as far as the delays in walking, that I'm not sure, because we're still trying to get him to crawl. And just like a baby with no disability, it's really when they're ready to crawl and walk. So it's kind of like that situation.
Um, yeah, I think I am fresh out of questions at the top of my head. Dimitri, did you have any final questions that you had?
Yeah, sorry. I apologize. My computer glitching today. I don't know what's going on. Um um no. This was the first time I've ever heard of this, and I just want to say, Caitlin, thank you for your bravery and sharing. I know how tough it may be for a you as a mother. I just wanted to say, what advice would you give to a mother going through same similar situation? Because you said each case is different. What advice would you give her just for her strength and courage to keep going on and to motivate her?
So my advice would be to seeking the Lord. Like all jokes aside, seeking the Lord, pray, ask Him to give you strength because going through what I went through, it is a very big mental load, physically, emotionally, and spiritually as well. And surround yourself with people that are positive. Surround yourself with people that are going to be there to love on you through your weakest, most vulnerable times. And keep anything negative away from you because nobody that's pregnant wants to be around anything that's negative. They don't need that negativity around them. And just take care of yourself. So when I found out I was pregnant and I went to my first doctor's appointment to, tell for them to tell me that I was pregnant, even though I knew I was pregnant, she was telling me that I need to take my prenatal vitamins, but especially folic acid. They say that the number one cause for spina bifida is lack of folic acid or folate, but you just never I never knew that. I never knew that because I didn't have any complications with my first pregnancy and I didn't know about folic acid or any of those things. But also just take care of yourself just in general if you do plan on getting pregnant or plan on, having kids or any more kids. So, yeah, take your prenatals, take your folic acid, be healthy because I was healthy and, because anything can happen during pregnancy.
All right. So we do want to also give you the chance to participate in Shameless Plug. So we know I'm not sure if you do have any businesses of your own or self-employment of any way, or if there's anything that you want to advocate for, draw traffic to, even if you want to open yourself up for any of our viewers that may experience the same thing and, just kind of need a support system. Let our viewers know how they can contact you, where they can look up any goods or services that you may have, anything that you want to use to sell yourself. You have the floor.
Okay, well, if you if you are going through what I've went through, you can always reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, preferably Facebook because I can respond to you quicker. Um, I also want to shout out my business. I'm a licensed esthetician and I specialize in makeup, body waxing, and facials in South Carolina. We're in the upstate area. Um, that's that's pretty much it.
Okay. Kaitlyn, we want to thank you so much. This is something we're going to keep bringing to the podcast. Thank you for your strength and your courage to get up and to share your testimony. And I know that you're a wonderful mom. I know that personally. And I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Um, sorry. That wraps up another episode of Unfiltered Unspoken podcast. And we want to thank you so much for tuning in and spending time with us. We will take your presence. If today's conversation spoke to you, make sure you follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok so you can stay connected with everything we're building at Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast. And don't forget to tune in each and every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube for a brand new episode. We're going to keep sharing life experiences, keep building connections, and having those real unfiltered conversations. Ain't that right, City Said?
That's right.
And we will see you next time. Thank you for tuning in. Peace.
And thank y'all for having me.
It is a pleasure and it's an honor. Make sure to stay right here, Kaitlyn.
Okay.